Greetings everyone, Vesper Aegis here. In Myanmar, the fighting continues between the government and a number of ethnic factions, particularly in the rural parts of the country. On Christmas Eve in the province of Kayah, which is in Eastern Myanmar, over 35 people were reported to have been killed in a massacre along a highway which included 2 workers from the Save the Children Foundation. Women and children were found among the remains, and the 2 male workers had recently become fathers. The military junta claimed that they had been attacked recently in the area by a similar convoy in appearance. The Kayah State, which is the home of the Karen people and borders Thailand, has been a major flashpoint of resistance against the military junta, particularly since the coup in February of this year. One diplomat and former chief of mission in Burma, Priscilla Clapp, suggests that the government did not expect the type of resistance they are currently dealing with in these regions, and that it is currently struggling to maintain itself. She notes that in the past, most resistance against military rule has been isolated to the cities, but that this combined resistance across the countryside is something that is unprecedented in Myanmar. She further suggests that the military is suffering from, quote, very bad morale, particularly in the lower levels of the organization. Yet this is not necessarily a reason for optimism, and while others have said the situation continues to deteriorate, she tends to agree and adds that, quote, it's becoming a real civil war. And in paleontological news, a dinosaur egg discovered in the year 2000 in Ganzhou in southern China was rediscovered in storage and found to contain a, quote, perfectly preserved dinosaur embryo inside. The species is an Oviraptorosaurus, a bird-like dinosaur that evolved in the Cretaceous period. The embryo was in a position called, quote, tucking, which modern birds do before hatching, bending their head underneath their wing. One theory from a 1978 study by William S. Brooks is that this optimal position for birds places the knee around the beak, keeping it in a position while it is attempting to break the shell and isolating its efforts to a single point to minimize effort in breaching the surface, and potentially having better ability to rotate it during the climax of the hatching phase. The same study suggests that birds which are able to successfully pull off this maneuver efficiently conserve energy and thus develop earlier than their brood peers. This discovery comes after another major discovery from the same region, Ganzhou, earlier this year in March, whereby an Oviraptorosaur was found apparently incubating 24 now fossilized eggs when they died. This was the first find of a non-avian dinosaur sitting on a nest of eggs that preserve embryos, according to the study's co-author Shengdong Bi. In 7 of the eggs, the embryos were found to be in curled positions. The adult had its forearms extended over the nest, and furthermore, the embryos were at different stages of development, showing an asynchronous hatching feature common in today's avians. And in Omicron news, new lab studies suggest that the Omicron variant may be less able to infiltrate lung cells, while being better able to infiltrate upper respiratory cells. This may explain why it is presenting with milder infection thus far, though it is still too early to tell if this potential end result will be the case around the world with different populations and demographics. One study posted on December 21st on bioRxiv preprints suggested that Omicron enters lung cells about as efficiently as the very first strain of COVID, while another study from the University of Hong Kong, published on the 15th of December, suggested that while it infiltrates upper airway cells more efficiently, it is less efficient at infecting lung cells than the original strain. According to the first study, Omicron is also less efficient than Delta at cell fusion, which is where the virus makes adjacent cells stick to each other, accommodating easier spread and replication. Severe COVID-19 complications from the disease often arise from robust cell fusion throughout the system. The study's senior author, Dr. Ravinda Gupta, nevertheless said that it's still critical to get vaccinated and get boosted in order to prevent this highly contagious disease from spreading far and wide. As always, even a small percentage of a very large number is enough to create immense burden on hospitals and on the immunocompromised. Dr. Fauci recently made the rounds on various Sunday shows, saying that he expected Omicron cases, quote, will likely go much higher after last week's weekly average of around 150,000 cases. He suggested that we shouldn't let the apparent lack of severity go to our heads, and that we shouldn't ignore the fact that this virus's extraordinary ability at getting to people could have serious consequences for the unvaccinated and the vulnerable. Dr. Fauci also mentioned in an interview with ABC's News's Jonathan Karl that he was, quote, a bit dismayed, unquote, that Trump supporters booed him when he declared that he had received the booster, but said that it was a good thing that Trump continued to promote people getting the vaccine. And that's all the news for today, and I hope you have a great day.